Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I'm here for another Monday This and That video where I talk about all kinds of different topics, giving you updates about what's going on around here and whatever else I feel like talking about. So let's get to the topics of today, starting off with the berry harvest and how I'm personally putting up my different berries. So right here is a jar of frozen currants. And mostly when it comes to a lot of my berries, I prefer to freeze them. So when it comes to freezing them like this is what I do with the currants, raspberries, strawberries, and blueberries. So I prefer to freeze in jars as much as I possibly can. The downside to this is that jars do obviously take up more room in your freezer space than freezing in bags, but I try to rely more on glass than plastic whenever I can. And since when it comes to using a lot of these type of berries, I'm either not putting up as much or I'm using them in smaller amounts anyway in whatever I'm using them in, then freezing them in the jars works really good for me. Now, you can your berries, and I've done that with blackberries before, and I still have yet to use them because I keep forgetting about them. And one of the reasons I like to freeze a lot of my berries is because when it comes to canning, some of your berries just they lose some of that flavor than they would if you just freeze them, especially when I want to go use them in specific things. So because these type of berries are something I'm going to use in winemaking, using in desserts and whatnot, I want to keep them as fresh as possible as far as the flavor goes. And when it comes to winemaking, freezing a lot of these things does make it much easier to juice them for making wines, meads, and the like. Now, of course, you can also dehydrate your berries, which is probably, when it comes to berries, my least favorite as far as the end flavor. I will say that if it comes right down to it and I have to can stuff because I'm either need more freezer space, or something happens to our freezers and they don't work anymore. I mean, we have backup power supply, so I'm not worried about the power so much. But if something happens to our freezer, yes, I will then turn around and can them. And I guess that's kind of the nice thing as well. They're already in jars. I just have to let them thaw and come to room temperature. And if need be, add a little more liquid to them. So once they're thawed and at least at room temperature, and then I can slowly heat them up in the canner along with the water, it'd be a really simple process. Now, when it comes to my grapes and the blackberries, because I'm typically going to use those in higher batches, and I'm also typically putting up a lot more of those, I then resort to using bags like this, the reusable kind. They are BPA free. They're still plastic though. So I'll put blackberries and grapes up in these, and then when I'm ready to juice them or make them for pies, I just pull the bag out and let it thaw. Now, by the way, I'll go ahead and bring up a tip that I got from one of my followers and have shared a couple of times. But when it comes to these type of Ziplocs, after you freeze them once or twice, the zipper just doesn't work as well. There's a trick to that you don't have to throw them out. All you got to do is when it gets to where the zipper doesn't want to work so well, just put a little bit of food grade oil on there. It can be coconut oil, avocado oil, olive oil. It just need a couple drops, and you spread it along the zipper and it will just zip right up. And maybe after a washing or two, you may have to do that again. But it's a cheap, simple trick to keep extending the life of your bag so you can continue to use them again and again. So yeah, that's what I do with my berries, and I need to get these back in the freezer before they fully thaw out. But let me come back to the freezing in jars. One thing that you should consider if you don't want your jars to break is that you'll see that I don't have this jar filled clear to the top. So when I'm filling my jars with the berries, because I just filled this one up yesterday, I don't put the top on super tight, and I don't fill it up all the way, because what's going to happen is as they freeze, even though there's airspace in there because I don't add water to this, it should be pretty safe. But if it gets too full and the berries expand, you could possibly break your jar. So I always leave a little head space, and then if I want to, once they're fully frozen and if I still have a lot of space in there, I can add a few more berries, and whatever expansion they have is not going to be enough to cause the jar to break because everything in there is still frozen. So I'm going to get these back in my freezer so they don't continue to thaw. But anyway, that's personally how I like to do it. Again, canning is a really great option. It's just not one I typically use for berries, and but I would be happy to if need be. But the one thing about the dehydrating is that you can dehydrate a lot of berries like raspberries, blackberries, and because they are lower in sugar than a lot of your other fruits, they will also powder up really well. If you want to do that to add flavor to certain things, but you don't want the whole pieces of fruit, you can dehydrate and powder them, and that works really well. In fact, I was thinking about doing that with some of my berries, my raspberries this year, but because my raspberry plants are still, because we had to kind of start over with the raspberry plants are still kind of young, I'm probably not going to do that. I want to just freeze as many as I can to use in making turnovers, pies, and the like. Oh yes, and then the other thing is too, like with the currants are ready before the blackberries are out at our other piece of property. And so a lot of those currants that I freeze up, I will then thaw out and use them with the blackberries to make jam, because that is one of my favorite jams, is a 1-to-1 blend of currants, the red currants because they're real tart, with the blackberries. It's just the perfect, in my personal opinion, combination of fruits to get the best flavor of both the currants and the blackberries. But, freezing them is just a way I can quickly put them up while they're coming in, until I can get the blackberries to make the jam with, or the syrup for that matter. So the next thing is I want to give you an update on my oregano vinegar right here. So this is golden oregano. This is why it's not more of a green color. So I started this over a month ago, and it took a long time. I think it took close to 6 weeks for it to finally finish. I might have added more sugar to this than I thought I had. But regardless, the flavor is mild enough. It would actually go well with quite a few things. I wasn't really sure. It was my first time doing just golden oregano vinegar, and I was hoping the flavor would turn out in such a way that I think it would be good for salad dressings. And yes, I believe this is perfect for using and making any kind of salad dressing. Most commonly, the Italian salad dressing, but if you're making ranch and certain other things, typically you're adding vinegar to just about any salad dressing recipe, and the golden oregano is a really good option for that. It would also work well as a cleaning vinegar too. So I'm pretty happy with this. I'll probably make some more, maybe next year, maybe soon, but I'm gonna have lots of vinegars with so many other things that I make vinegars from, especially the florals, because those are the ones I go through the quickest through the year, because I make those for my hair wash vinegar. So I might not do more of this. I might just save this. This is why I write on the jar, specifically for using for salad dressings, where my apple, peach, whatever other vinegars I put up will be used for everything else, from cleaning to food purposes and so on, other food purposes. So then with that said, I want to mention I got a lot of Dr. Jacobs Castile soap put up, but I always like to keep well stocked, always stay well ahead. And I noticed when I went to place my last order that they had a new scent in the African black soap, and it's the Oriental Oud, I believe is how you pronounce it. I'd never heard of it. Apparently it's used to make a really expensive perfume, which I don't wear perfume, so I don't care. But at any rate, it does have a super nice smell. It's kind of it's sort of sweet, but mostly kind of a woodsy type smell, but I really, really like it. While I most commonly use my homemade vinegar to wash my hair with, I do like to once a week or once every other week wash my hair with some kind of soap. I'm either going to use my own homemade bar soap or the Dr. Jacobs soap when I do that. And so I did try this on my hair just to see what I thought of it. And in that case, I dilute it down. So it's just one little squirt in an 8-ounce squirt bottle that I then top off with water, and I can use that for washing my hair and everything else too. So I use it as a body wash and a hair wash at the same time, because you just need that tiny squirt. It goes a long way. And anyway, I noticed this one of all their soaps actually not only has just a great smell, it's one of my top favorites now, right along with the Clary Sage Lavender and the Sensual Manoi and the Honey Almond. But this one is probably the richest, creamiest, and it seemed to leave my hair the softest. So I'm very happy with that. If you're interested in checking out the Dr. Jacobs soap, there's a similar to Dr. Bronner's, but I like Dr. Jacobs way better. I'd used Dr. Bronner's for years, then found Dr. Jacobs and liked them so much better. So much so that I contacted them and asked if they had an affiliate program, which they do. So you'll always find their affiliate link in my description box down below. And you get, I think it's 10% off your order when you go through that link. And that also helps us out a little bit too, because we make a little bit of commission off it. So very happy with that. Now another update is on the fermented beans and peas. Now these look a lot darker than the jar I was showing you guys last week, because these were cooked together. So this is one of the reasons I don't like black beans, because they turn everything that darker color. But I have been fermenting them, and with the cooking and then fermenting process, I notice my chickens like them so much better, and I also know that they're going to be healthier. So since I have to cook these for them anyway, it just makes sense to go ahead and stick them in a jar, add my fermentation starter, leave them for a few days to ferment, and there we go. So this is the most recent jar that I'm in the process of fermenting. I've got 3 more. It's easier for me to do this in quarts, though I could do it in half-gallon jars as far as just storing in the fridge, because that's where I'd prefer to store it. The quarts are easier. I can find more places to put quarts than I can half-gallon jars. So yeah, and then I just work through a quart at a time and then just keep cycling through. So this was definitely a good option. Now I know a lot of people ferment all of their feed, and to be honest, that is just something I don't want to do, because it's just too much extra stuff to have to do and have so many jars and things fermenting all over the place, that I'll stick with the things that I have to cook anyway and ferment those, so I know they're still getting their probiotics. Along with the vinegar, I try to make sure I get in their water. I don't always remember, but I do have, like for them, I'll take the garlic greens and the oregano from my garden, and I'll make vinegar for them out of that. And then that's what I like to use in their water, because they're getting the benefits of the oregano and garlic as well as the vinegar itself. And then one more update I wanted to give is I just want to show you this little clip I took yesterday, which by the time you're seeing this will be a few days, of my einkorn grain so far and how it's doing. So it's my first time trying to grow something like that. So I just did about a 4x4 patch in my main garden section, and it seems to be doing quite well. I also found that there's another wheat growing in there, which I don't know what it is, and I found some oats growing too. I'm guessing the oat, either those were some grains that got mixed in with the einkorn seed, or it's some from what I throw that I add to the scratch. Because I've done the oat groats for the chickens before. They don't really care for them. They'll eat them if that's the last thing that's left. But I'm wondering if it might have come up from an oat groat that I'd thrown out there to the chickens, or if it was just in the bag. Either way, I'm like, okay, well now I can see that oats will grow too, and whatever this other wheat is. So I'm not sure. I don't know if I'll know what it is, but you can tell by the size of the heads, the color of it, that it's definitely different from the einkorn. But so now it's just a matter of seeing if our shorter growing climate will give it enough time and enough heat for those to fully mature to be able to use. So once I know that I have I can get these different grains. It's really cool to see those oats growing too. Then I'll know if we really need to, we can take one of our other pieces of properties, most likely the one down the road, and we can till up a wide section to grow our own grains for making our own breads and whatever else we need those for. And then one more thing I want to say before I go is I want to remind everyone that we've got, I need more preparedness testimonies, because I've been wanting to shoot another video, but I don't have enough in there right now. I try to have at least 3 stories, unless 1 or 2 of those stories that I have in my folder are really long, then that would be fine. But I only have 2, and they're both on the shorter side, so not enough for a full video. So if you have anything you would like to share about how being more prepared got you through some difficult times, or how you got to a more prepared, you were able to build up your food storage or get chickens or whatever it is you're doing to be more self-sufficient on a budget. These are 2 aspects of this that are really important for people to understand. The importance of being more prepared for whatever situation that may arise. Because, those real life stories, they really help people understand, rather than just listening to all the scary fear mongering of big, huge events that, yes, some of those can happen. It's the day-to-day things that you're more likely to find yourself falling back on your food storage and so on. So that's why I really like those stories. But also the concern where people just assume that you have to have thousands of dollars to start getting into just putting up food, when that's just not true. And that's why I like people hearing those stories as well, so they can understand, oh, it's that simple. I don't have to have $3,000 in freeze-dried foods. No, you don't. So anyway, yeah, please send those to me, as well as the other 2 collaborations, photo collaborations I'll be doing later on. I'll be putting those videos together like in the fall, and that's going to be food preservation collaboration. So you're taking nice photos of the foods you're putting up, whether it be foods from your own garden, foods you're buying from a produce stand, whatever. And, it could be canned, dried, freeze-dried, doesn't matter. Anything that you're putting up, just take some really nice high-quality photos. And I usually don't do more than 3 photos per person. So the food preservation ones will go in their own email to raincountryhomestead@gmail.com, just like the preparedness testimonies. Each one of these should be separate. So an email, preparedness testimonies, and a separate email, food preservation collaboration. And then if you're going to do the garden collaboration, where you're taking nice photos of your garden, that will be the garden collaboration. So 3 totally separate emails. So again, that email address for any of those emails, or if you just want to ask me some important questions, raincountryhomestead@gmail.com, and I'll get back. If it's a question, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you don't hear from me for a long time, it could be that your email ended up in my spam folder and I missed it when I was, cleaning that out. Just send it to me again. Some people are like, oh, well, I emailed you, but you never answered, so I gave up. Well, it's either that or you're putting in the wrong email address. One of the most common mistakes people make is they forget to put the R in country. Rain Country Homestead. They put Rain County Homestead. So Rain Country Homestead. If you don't get the email address right, it's not going to come to me and I'll have no clue. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my this and that for the week. And any thoughts, ideas you'd like to share, please put those in comments down below. And thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.